Caden stood alone in his garden, the damp earth beneath his boots a reminder of seasons past. His trees were his life, tall, silent sentinels that stretched to the heavens with a grace born of patience. Each one he had cultivated with care, tending to them as a parent does a child, coaxing them from their tender saplings into the rare, magnificent specimens they had become. Yet despite the outward beauty of his work, there was a void within him, an ache that refused to be healed, no matter how much time he spent in the solitude of his garden. The betrayal had come like a winter storm, sudden, fierce, and unrelenting. A friend once trusted, now a stranger who had stolen what was most precious to him: his trust, his honor, and his peace. For years, Caden had buried the wound, allowing his trees to grow tall while his heart grew heavy. He often wondered if the same hands that planted the seeds of the silent oaks had also planted the bitterness that gnawed at his soul. One evening, as twilight cast long shadows over his garden, a figure appeared at the edge of the clearing. The stranger was draped in a cloak of indigo, the color of twilight itself, and her face was obscured by a hood. She moved with an air of quiet purpose, as though she had come for something long awaited. "I seek the silent tree." The woman's voice was soft, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. "Do you have its seeds?" Caden felt a tremor of recognition. The silent tree, an ancient legend whispered among those who knew of the old ways. A tree said to grant inner peace, a balm for those whose hearts were so burdened by the past to find peace. Caden had heard of it, though he had never believed it to be more than a story. Yet something about the stranger's presence made him feel as though the weight of her request was not an accident, but a call to something deeper. "The seeds are here," he said, turning toward a small wooden chest at his side, its surface worn by years of use. "But they are not for the faint of heart. The tree is not a cure, but a lesson. To plant it is to face the past you wish to forget." The woman approached him, her steps measured, and as she came closer, Caden saw the subtle pain in her eyes, a mirror of his own. The seeds were small, as delicate as the fragile trust they represented. He hesitated, his fingers trembling as they hovered over the chest. "You ask for the silent tree," Caden said quietly, "but it is not the tree that will grant you peace. It is your heart. The tree's silence is the reflection of all that you cannot speak, of the grief, the anger, the sorrow that you carry with you. To plant it is to make a choice, to forgive, not the world around you, but the burden you have placed upon your own soul." For a moment, the woman stood still, her gaze fixed on the seeds. Then slowly she nodded, understand and understanding dawning in her eyes. Caden reached into the chest and placed the seeds into her palm. "May you find peace in the silence you seek," he whispered, the weight of the words heavy on his own soul. As the woman disappeared into the dusk, Caden stood by his trees, the air thick with the scent of earth and bittersweet memory of his own loss. He had given her the seeds, but in doing so, he had also given himself the permission to let go of the anger that had kept him bound. The silent tree, he realized, had never been about erasing the past. It was about learning to grow from it. With a deep breath, Caden turned back to the garden, where the oaks stood, silent, steadfast, and patient. And in that moment, for the first time in years, he felt the faintest stirring of peace within himself.